Employee laughs at Kimberly Guilfoyle. Don Jr.'s revenge was epic.
Sarah Chen's morning started like any other at Trump Tower, with chaos. At 6:45 a.m., she was already at her desk, hair still damp from her rushed shower, gulping down her second coffee while juggling calls and emails. "No, Mr. Patterson, Don Jr. can't meet on Tuesday." "Yes, I understand it's urgent, but—" Sarah pressed her fingers against her temple, fighting a headache. "What about next Thursday? I can squeeze you in at 2 p.m. Her other line blinked. 3 new emails popped up. Her coffee had gone cold. "Morning, sunshine?" Jenny from accounting dropped a stack of papers on Sarah's desk. "You look like death warmed over." Sarah managed a weak smile. "Thanks. Just what every girl wants to hear." "Quarterly reports?" Jenny peered at Sarah's computer screen. "Yeah. Was here until 4 a.m. finishing them. Went home, showered, came back." Sarah stifled a yawn. "Pretty sure my blood is 90% caffeine right now." Jenny whistled. "Girl, you need to slow down. This place isn't worth killing yourself over." If only it were that simple. Sarah had worked too hard to get here. 3 years ago, when Thomas Martinez had recruited her from her middle management job at Morgan Stanley, she'd thought she'd won the lottery. Executive assistant to the Trump Organization's senior management wasn't just a job. It was a golden ticket into New York's power circles. "Sarah," Thomas's voice boomed across the office, "where are we with the Q3 numbers?" She quickly pulled up the spreadsheet. "Final revision done, sir. Just need your sign-off on the last page." Thomas, tall, silver-haired, perpetually tan, strode over to her desk. He'd been her mentor since day one, teaching her the intricate dance of corporate politics. "Good work, kiddo. Don Jr. Going to need these for the board meeting. Already sent them to his printer." Sarah suppressed another yawn. Thomas frowned. "You look exhausted. Go home early today." "Can't. The Wilson contract needs." "That's an order, not a suggestion." His stern expression softened. "You're my best EA, Sarah. Can't have you burning out." The morning blurred into afternoon. Sarah's eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets. Her third coffee sat untouched, gone cold like the others. The office hummed with the usual activity. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, voices discussing deals worth millions. "Did you hear?" Jenny was back, perching on the edge of Sarah's desk. "Kimberly's on the warpath. Someone messed up her travel arrangements for next week's fundraiser." Sarah groaned. "Please tell me it wasn't my department." "Nah, some new kid in logistics. But she's been stomping around all morning. Fair warning." As if on cue, the elevator dinged. Sarah glanced up to see Kimberly Guilfoyle step out, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing animatedly. Even angry, she looked immaculate. Designer suit, perfect makeup, not a hair out of place. "This is completely unacceptable," Kimberly's voice carried across the office. "I don't care what you have to do. Fix it." Sarah quickly looked back at her screen. Rule number 1 of surviving at Trump Tower: stay invisible when the higher-ups were angry. The afternoon dragged on. Sarah's fatigue reached new levels. Her eyes kept unfocusing, numbers swimming on her screen. The Wilson contract still needed reviewing, but the words had stopped making sense 2 hours ago. "Hey." Jenny appeared with a fresh coffee. "You really should go home." Sarah shook her head. "Almost done. Just need to." "Sarah." Jenny's voice dropped to a whisper. "You're making mistakes. Look." She pointed to a figure on the screen. "That should be 457,000, not 475,000. "Shit." Sarah quickly corrected the number. "Thanks. I can't leave yet. Don Jr. needs these numbers for tomorrow's meeting with the Saudi investors." "Your funeral." Jenny shrugged. "But when you fall face first into your keyboard, I'm taking pictures." By 6 p.m., most of the office had cleared out. Sarah's desk was the only one still lit, a lone island in the growing darkness. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mom in California. "Honey, are you eating? Sleeping? Call me." Sarah ignored it. Just like she'd ignored the last 3. She'd call once the quarter was over, once things calmed down. If things ever calmed down. The elevator dinged again. Sarah barely registered it, focused on cross-referencing numbers between 3 different spreadsheets. Then, she heard the voices. "We need to hit harder on the integrity angle." Kimberly's heels clicked against the marble floor. "These people need to understand." Sarah's brain, foggy with exhaustion, took a moment to process what she was hearing. Kimberly was practicing another speech, pacing the empty office floor, Don Jr. nowhere in sight. "The radical left wants to destroy our democracy," Kimberly's voice rose dramatically. "They're stealing our votes, stealing our future." Maybe it was the sleep deprivation. Maybe it was the caffeine overdose. Maybe it was 16 hours of staring at spreadsheets while surviving on vending machine crackers. Whatever the reason, Sarah felt something bubble up inside her. A weird, uncontrollable urge. And then, it happened. Ha! The laugh escaped before she could stop it. Short, sharp, loud in the quiet office. The clicking stopped. Sarah's stomach dropped. Her whole body went cold. Slowly, deliberately, Kimberly Guilfoyle turned around, her face, perfectly made up, transformed into a mask of fury. "Excuse me?" The words came out soft, dangerous. Sarah's mouth went dry. "Miss Guilfoyle, I'm so sorry I didn't—" "Stand up." Kimberly's voice could have frozen hell. Sarah stood on shaking legs. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst. Kimberly stalked toward her desk, each click of her heels like a gunshot. "What's your name?" "Sarah Chen." "Sarah Chen." Kimberly said it slowly, like she was memorizing it. She pulled out her phone, manicured fingers moving across the screen. "And how long have you worked here, Sarah Chen?" 3 years, ma'am." 3 years? Kimberly's smile was terrifying. "And in those 3 years, did no one teach you respect?" The phone at Kimberly's ear rang once before it was answered. "Don, come to the executive floor. Now." She didn't take her eyes off Sarah. "We have a situation." The next 5 minutes were the longest of Sarah's life. She stood there, trembling, as Kimberly stared at her with cold fury. Neither spoke. The only sound was the gentle hum of the air conditioning and Sarah's thundering heart. The elevator dinged. Don Jr.'s footsteps were quick, angry. He appeared around the corner, face already flushed with rage. "What's going on?" "This," Kimberly gestured at Sarah with contempt. "Employee seems to find election integrity amusing." Don Jr. His eyes narrowed. "Does she?" "I don't, sir, I swear," Sarah's voice cracked. "I was just tired. I've been here since." "Pack your things." Don Jr.'s voice was quiet but final. "Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. "Please," Sarah felt tears welling up. "Mr. Trump, I've worked here for 3 years. My record is perfect. Ask Thomas, ask anyone." 9 minutes. Don Jr. turned away, pulling out his phone. "And Chen? Don't bother asking for references." Sarah's hands shook as she opened her desk drawer. 3 years of her life. 3 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family events, canceled vacations. All ending because of one exhausted laugh. As she packed her family photos into a cardboard box, she caught Jenny watching from across the office, face pale with shock. Sarah tried to smile, to show she was okay, but her lips trembled too much. Security arrived, right on schedule. 2 large men in dark suits, expressionless, waiting to escort her out like a criminal. Sarah took one last look at her desk, at the spreadsheets still open on her computer, at the cold coffee cups, at the sticky note where she'd written her goals for the year. "Time to go, Miss Chen," one of the guards said. She nodded, picked up her box, and walked toward the elevator. As the doors closed, she saw Kimberly and Don Jr. watching. Their expressions promised this wasn't over. Sarah Chen had no idea how right they were. The ride down was silent. 66 floors had never felt longer. Sarah clutched her box tighter, fighting back tears. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Probably Jenny, maybe Thomas. She couldn't look. Not yet. The lobby was still busy, even at this hour. Sarah kept her head down as the guards led her through the marble atrium. People stared. Of course they did. Everyone knew what it meant when security escorted you out with a box. "Sarah, wait!" Thomas's voice. Sarah turned to see her mentor rushing across the lobby, face flushed. "Ma'am." One of the guards stepped between them. No contact with terminated employees. The hell with that. Thomas tried to push past. She's worked for me for 3 years. Sir. The second guard moved forward. Please don't make this difficult. Sarah caught Thomas's eye around the guard's shoulder. It's okay, she managed to say. I'm okay. She wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. The night air hit her like a slap. Sarah stood on the sidewalk, watching the guards retreat back into the building. Her building, until 20 minutes ago. Now she was just another nobody on the street, holding a box of dead plants and family photos. Her phone buzzed again. With trembling fingers, she pulled it out. Jenny. OMG. What happened? Are you okay? Thomas, call me immediately. Mom. Honey? You're worrying me. Jenny again. Sarah, please answer. A text from an unknown number made her freeze. Hope it was worth the laugh. Sarah's legs gave out. She sank onto a nearby bench, the box sliding to the ground. 3 years. 3 years of her life, gone in an instant. And for what? A stupid, exhausted laugh? Miss, you okay? She looked up to see a street vendor watching her with concern. Only then did Sarah realize she was crying, mascara probably streaming down her face. I'm fine, she whispered. Just fired. The vendor winced sympathetically. Trump Tower? Sarah nodded. Rough place, he said, then hesitated. Here. He handed her a paper napkin. On the house. She managed a weak thanks and tried to wipe her face, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her phone kept buzzing. The unknown number texted again. Check your email. With dread churning in her stomach, Sarah opened her work email on her phone. Access denied. Of course. She switched to her personal email. There it was. An email from HR, timestamped 5 minutes ago. Subject line. Termination effective immediately, misconduct. Misconduct. The word, blurred, as fresh tears welled up. She'd never had so much as a warning in 3 years. Her performance reviews were perfect. She'd sacrificed everything for this job. Relationships, family time, her health. Her phone buzzed with another unknown number. Welcome to unemployment, Sarah Chen. Then another. Should have kept your mouth shut. Sarah's blood ran cold. How many numbers did they have? How far would they go? A black SUV with tinted windows pulled up to the curb. Sarah grabbed her box and hurried away, her heels clicking frantically on the pavement. She didn't stop until she was safely in a cab, giving her Brooklyn address in a shaky voice. As the cab pulled away from Trump Tower, Sarah looked back at the golden letters gleaming against the night sky. Just this morning, they'd meant success, power, her future. Now, they felt like a threat. Her phone buzzed one more time. Jenny? They're calling an emergency floor meeting. Something about protocols for handling sensitive information. Sarah, what's happening? Sarah turned off her phone. The cab driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Rough day? Sarah watched Trump Tower disappear behind other skyscrapers. You could say that. She had no idea it was just the beginning. Sarah's phone alarm went off at 6 a.m. the next morning, just like always. For a few blissful seconds, everything felt normal. Then reality crashed in. She was unemployed. Her phone showed 37 missed calls, 50-plus text messages, and over 100 emails. Sarah's hand trembled as she scrolled through them. Jenny. They cleaned out your desk. Everything's gone. Mom. Why aren't you answering? What's wrong? Thomas. This isn't right. Call me. Unknown number? Should have kept that pretty mouth shut. Unknown number. Enjoying unemployment? But it was the email from Hamilton Brooks, the investment firm she'd interviewed with last week, that made her stomach drop. Dear Miss Chen, we regret to inform you that we are withdrawing our offer of employment. Upon further review, we have determined that there is not a suitable fit between your qualifications and our current needs. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. Regards, Hamilton Brooks, HR. Sarah stared at her phone until the screen went dark. The offer had been all but final. The HR director had even talked about start dates. Her phone rang, a New York number she didn't recognize. Hello? Her voice cracked. Is this Sarah Chen? A woman's crisp voice. Yes, speaking. This is Margaret Walsh from Blackstone Group. I'm calling about your application for the executive assistant position. Sarah sat up straighter. She'd applied months ago, back when she was still casually looking. Yes, of course. We were very interested in your credentials. Margaret's tone cooled slightly. But we've received some concerning information about your recent employment history. Sarah's heart pounded. What? What information? I'm afraid I can't discuss the details. I'm simply calling to inform you that we won't be moving forward with your application. Good day, Miss Chen. The line went dead. Sarah sat in her bed, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled clothes, trying to process what was happening. Her phone buzzed with another unknown number. Checking your messages? Fun morning? She threw the phone across the room. Hours passed in a blur. Sarah ignored calls from her family, from Jenny, from everyone. She couldn't face them. Not yet. Not until she figured out what to do. Around noon, her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw Thomas standing in the hallway, looking worried. Sarah hesitated, then opened the door. Jesus, kiddo. Thomas took in her appearance, yesterday's clothes, smeared makeup, unwashed hair. You look like hell. What are you doing here? Sarah's voice was hoarse. Trying to figure out what the hell happened. He stepped inside, looking around her small apartment. You're not answering calls. Jenny's worried sick. Sarah sank onto her couch. I laughed. What? At Kimberly Guilfoyle. I laughed while she was practicing some speech about election fraud. Sarah's laugh now was bitter. Stupid, right? 3 years down the drain because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Thomas sat heavily in her reading chair. That's not why you were fired. What? Sarah, think. People don't get escorted out by security for laughing. This was planned. They were waiting for an excuse. But why? My work was perfect. You know that. Thomas leaned forward. Last month, when you organized those files for the Saudi deal, you saw things. Things they maybe didn't want you to see. Sarah's blood ran cold. The irregularities in the numbers. The missing documents. She'd assumed it was just typical corporate mess, had straightened it all out like she always did. I didn't. I never said anything. Didn't have to. They knew you saw. Thomas rubbed his face tiredly. Look, I need to get back. I shouldn't even be here. But Sarah? Watch your back. This isn't over. After Thomas left, Sarah finally checked her voicemail. 3 recruiters, all calling to cancel interviews she'd scheduled weeks ago. 2 more rescinded job offers. Even her backup plans were disappearing. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. They're saying crazy things about you here. That you leaked documents? That you were unstable? Sarah, what's going on? Another unknown number. Like the rumors, just the beginning. Sarah's hands shook as she opened her laptop. She Googled her name. Nothing yet. But how long until something appeared? Until some anonymous source spread lies about her? Until her entire career was destroyed by whispers and rumors? Her email pinged. Another rejection. Dear Miss Chen, we appreciate your interest in Morgan Stanley. However, after careful consideration, she didn't bother reading the rest. By evening, Sarah had received 15 more rejections. Companies she'd never even applied to were preemptively telling her not to bother. Her LinkedIn profile was flooding with views from HR departments across Manhattan. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Jenny, holding a bottle of wine and looking nervous. You shouldn't be here, Sarah said quietly. Screw that. Jenny pushed past her into the apartment. You're my friend. I brought wine. They sat on Sarah's tiny balcony, watching the Brooklyn sunset. Jenny filled her in on the office gossip, how security had gone through Sarah's desk drawers, how HR had called a meeting about information security protocols, how Kimberly had smiled all day like a cat that ate the canary. It's insane, Jenny said, pouring more wine. Everyone knows you're the most professional person there. Even that time Steve threw up on your shoes, you just helped him to the bathroom and kept working. Sarah managed a weak smile. How was drunk, Steve? Missing you. We all are. It's like... Jenny hesitated. It's like they're trying to erase you. All your files are gone. Your name's been removed from every project. Thomas is fighting it, but... Tell him to stop. Sarah's voice was firm. They'll come for him next. Sarah. I mean it. Look what they're doing to me. I can't let that happen to anyone else. Jenny's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then paled. What? Sarah asked. Nothing. Just work stuff. Jenny. Jenny handed over her phone. The message was from an unknown number. Enjoying drinks with the trader? Bold career move. Sarah felt sick. You need to go. Sarah, no. Now, Jenny, please, before they target you too. After Jenny left, Sarah sat alone in her darkening apartment. Her phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers, each message more threatening than the last. Her email inbox filled with rejections from companies across the city. She opened her laptop again and pulled up her bank account. Her savings were healthy. She'd always been careful with money. But in New York, it wouldn't last long. A new email arrived, this one from her landlord. Miss Chen, it has come to our attention that your employment status has changed, as per your lease agreement. Sarah slammed the laptop shut. Days blurred together. Sarah stopped answering her phone entirely. She ordered groceries for delivery, afraid to leave her apartment. Her mother's worried voicemails piled up. Her father's emails went unread. 1 week after the laugh, Sarah finally forced herself to dress professionally and visit a job agency in Midtown. The receptionist's smile froze when she gave her name. I'm sorry, Miss Chen. We won't be able to help you. You haven't even looked at my resume. We have instructions. The receptionist wouldn't meet her eyes. About you. Sarah stood there, humiliation burning in her chest. Instructions from whom? I think you should leave. On the subway ride home, Sarah's phone buzzed with another unknown number. Nice outfit. Job hunting's tough these days, isn't it? They were watching her. Somehow, they were watching her. 2 weeks after the laugh, Sarah's savings had taken their first major hit. She'd had to pay a lease termination fee to her landlord. Her parents kept calling, desperate to understand why their high-achieving daughter had suddenly gone silent. She finally answered one of her mother's calls. Sarah? Oh, thank God. Are you okay? What's happening? Sarah tried to sound normal. Everything's fine, Mom. Just job transition stuff. Don't lie to me. Your father's friends at Morgan Stanley said nobody will hire you. They said there are rumors. Mom, please. Sarah's voice cracked. I can't talk about it. Then, come home. Whatever's happening, just come home to California. Sarah stared out her window at the Manhattan skyline. I can't. Why not? Because running away meant they won. Because she'd worked too hard to get here. Because a new text arrived. Say hi to Mom for us. How is California this time of year? Sarah ended the call. 3 weeks after the laugh, Jenny stopped by again. She looked nervous, jumpy. They're watching everything, she whispered, glancing around Sarah's apartment like she expected to find cameras. Everyone at work is afraid to even mention your name. Thomas got demoted. They said it was restructuring, but we all know why. Sarah felt sick. I never wanted any of this. I know. Jenny hugged her. I have to go. I'm sorry. I needed you to know you're not crazy. What they're doing, it's real. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, jumping at every sound. Her phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers. Her email kept filling with rejections. Even LinkedIn had suspended her account due to suspicious activity. 4 weeks after the laugh, Sarah sat in her therapist's office, finally telling someone the whole story. They're destroying me, she whispered. My whole life, my career, everything. Because I laughed. Dr. Patterson listened quietly, taking notes. Have you considered legal action? Sarah laughed bitterly. Against them? With what money? What lawyer would take the case? Sarah. Dr. Patterson set down her notepad. What you're describing is systematic harassment. I know. You need help. I know that too. Sarah wiped her eyes. But you don't understand. Their power, it's everywhere. Every company, every connection. They won't stop until I'm ruined. When Sarah got home, a new email waited in her inbox. From her therapist's office, due to our current patient load, we regret to inform you that we can no longer provide services. Sarah stared at her screen, something breaking inside her. They'd even gotten to her therapist. Her phone buzzed one last time that night. Unknown number. Ready to break yet? Sarah didn't answer. She just sat in her dark apartment, watching the city lights blur through her tears, wondering how much more she could take. The next morning, Sarah forced herself to get up and check her emails. Professional habit dies hard. Among the usual rejection letters, one subject line caught her eye. Potential position, private family office. Her hands shook as she opened it. The email was from a small recruiting firm she'd never heard of. Dear Ms. Chen, despite the concerning reports we've received, our client is willing to meet with you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the Pierre Hotel lobby. Discretion is appreciated. Regards, Marcus Wellington, Wellington Staffing Solutions. Sarah read the email 5 times. It was the first potential opportunity in weeks, but something felt off. The Pierre Hotel was where Kimberly often held meetings. Her phone rang. A blocked number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Hello? Miss Chen. A man's voice, unfamiliar. About tomorrow's interview. Sarah's throat tightened. Yes? Don't bother coming. Just wanted you to know we can get your hopes up anytime we want. The line went dead. Sarah threw her phone against the wall, watching it shatter. She screamed, a raw, primal sound that had been building for weeks. Her neighbors banged on the wall in response. Sorry, she whispered to no one. Around noon, there was a knock at her door. Sarah froze. She hadn't ordered anything, and Jenny had stopped visiting after the threats. Through the peephole, she saw a middle-aged woman in an expensive suit. Miss Chen? The woman called through the door. I'm Barbara Winters from the New York Post. We're working on a story about workplace misconduct at Trump Tower. Would you like to comment? Sarah's heart raced. No comment. Please leave. We have sources saying you were fired for leaking sensitive documents. Care to respond? That's a lie, and you know it, Sarah's voice cracked. Leave or I'm calling the police. Sources also mention unstable behavior, inappropriate relationships with senior staff. Sarah yanked the door open. Get out. Now. Barbara Winters smiled, shark-like, pulling out a recorder. Aggressive behavior seems consistent with our source's claims. Sarah slammed the door, sliding down against it as the reporter kept talking through the wood. Her phone, the new one she'd gotten to replace the shattered one, buzzed. Unknown number. Enjoying your visitor? Page 6 says hi. An hour later, Jenny called. Sarah? Oh God, are you okay? What's wrong? There are reporters here, at Trump Tower, asking about you. About... God, Sarah, the things they're saying. Don't talk to them. Sarah's voice was dead. Don't say anything. But it's all lies. Everyone knows you'd never. Jenny, please, just stay away from it. From me. That evening, Sarah's father called. His voice was tight with worry. Princess, we need to talk about what's happening. Sarah curled up on her couch, clutching a pillow. Dad, I can't. The Post reporter called me, at my office in San Francisco. Sarah felt the room spin. What? They're asking about your childhood, they're saying you had psychiatric issues as a teenager? That you were institutionalized? Dad, that's insane. I was never. I know, Princess. I know. He sounded tired. But they're going to print it anyway, aren't they? Sarah couldn't answer. Come home, he pleaded. Whatever this is, whoever you've angered, just come home. We'll figure it out. A text arrived as she talked to her father. Daddy can't help you now. Sarah ended the call. Later that night, her building's fire alarm went off. Sarah joined her neighbors on the street, shivering in her pajamas, watching firefighters search the building. No fire was found. As she turned to go back inside, she caught a glimpse of a black SUV with tinted windows slowly driving past. Her phone buzzed. Sleep tight. The next day, Sarah tried to buy coffee at her usual place. Her credit card was declined. That's impossible, she told the barista. I just checked my balance. She pulled up her banking app. The account was frozen due to suspicious activity. Walking home, Sarah felt eyes on her everywhere. Black SUVs seemed to be parked on every corner. Unknown numbers texted her about every move she made. Nice try with the coffee. That red sweater looks cheap. Running low on funds yet? She jumped when someone touched her arm. It was just an old lady who dropped her groceries. Sarah helped her pick them up, hands trembling. "Are you all right, dear?" The old lady peered at her. "You look frightened." Sarah tried to smile. "I'm fine." Her phone buzzed. "Such a good Samaritan. Shame about your character references." That afternoon, Sarah got an email from her college alumni association. They were reviewing her membership status due to concerning reports about her professional conduct. Then her gym canceled her membership. Then her favorite takeout place blocked her number. Her whole life was being erased piece by piece. By evening, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She called Thomas, not caring about the consequences. "They're everywhere," she whispered when he answered. "Everything I do, everywhere I go." "I know, kiddo." He sounded exhausted. "They demoted me again. I'll probably be gone by next week." "I'm so sorry." "Not your fault. Sarah, have you considered leaving New York?" She looked around her apartment, at the moving boxes she'd started packing, at the life she'd built crumbling around her. "And go where?" "They'll follow me. You know they will." "Maybe, but—" Thomas's voice cut off. When he came back, he was whispering, "I have to go. They're watching my calls. Stay strong, kiddo." Sarah spent that night, like she spent most nights now, sitting in the dark, jumping at every sound, watching her phone light up with threats from unknown numbers. Her savings were dwindling. Her reputation was in tatters. Her friends had abandoned her. All because of a laugh. Her phone buzzed one last time that night. "Sweet dreams, Sarah. Tomorrow's another day. And we're just getting started." The January morning started with another anonymous text. "Check your email, Sarah. Big news coming." Sarah hadn't slept in what felt like weeks. Dark circles under her eyes had become permanent features. Her hands shook constantly now, a combination of too much coffee, too little food, and constant fear. Her laptop chimed. New email. From tips@nipost.com. Subject: Request for comment. Deadline 5 p.m. Today. Sarah's stomach lurched as she read, "Miss Chen, the New York Post is preparing to publish an article regarding your tenure at the Trump Organization. Sources have provided extensive documentation about your disruptive political activism, inappropriate workplace conduct, and mishandling of sensitive information. As a courtesy, we are offering you an opportunity to comment before publication. Deadline 5 p.m. today. Barbara Winters, New York Post." Sarah's phone rang immediately. Her mother. "Have you seen it?" Her mom's voice was tight with panic. "Sarah, they sent it to everyone. Everyone." "What do you mean, everyone?" "Your entire LinkedIn network, your college alumni group, all your old bosses. Everyone got an email asking for background information about Sarah Chen's workplace conduct." Sarah felt the room spin. She grabbed her desk to steady herself. "Mom, I have to go." She barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up. Her phone kept buzzing. "Jenny." "Sarah, they're emailing everyone about you." "Thomas, don't respond to any press. Call me." "Unknown." "TikTok. 5 p.m. comes fast." "Unknown." "Ready for your 15 minutes of fame?" Sarah's hands trembled as she called Thomas. "Don't engage," he said immediately. "Whatever they print, don't respond." "But it's all lies." Sarah's voice cracked. "They're going to destroy what's left of my reputation." "Kid, listen to me." Thomas sounded tired. "They want you to fight back, to look unstable. Don't give them what they want." "I can't just—" "Sarah." His voice softened. "I was pushed out yesterday. Security escort and everything. I can't help you anymore." Sarah felt tears well up. "Thomas, I'm so sorry." "Not your fault. But please, for your own sake, stay quiet." By noon, Sarah's inbox was flooded with forwards of the Post's email. Former colleagues, college friends, even her high school tennis coach, everyone was getting asked about her troubling pattern of behavior. Her phone rang again. Unknown number, but she answered anyway. "Hello? Sarah Chen?" A man's voice. "John Martinez from the Daily News. We're running a follow-up piece on the Post's story. Care to comment on allegations that you leaked sensitive documents during your time at Trump Tower?" Sarah ended the call, then immediately got a text. Hanging up on reporters? Skrock. Looking pretty guilty there. She started getting LinkedIn messages from old colleagues. Sarah, what's going on? The Post is asking about inappropriate relationships with senior staff. Hey, remember that charity event in 2019? They're saying you caused some kind of scene? Did you really get fired for leaking documents? Sarah closed her laptop, but her phone kept buzzing. Unknown. 3 hours till deadline. Unknown. Should we tell them about your medical history? Unknown. Wonder what future employers will think. Around 2 p.m., her therapist called. Sarah, are you safe? Sarah laughed bitterly. Define safe. I'm serious. Dr. Patterson's voice was tight with concern. These attacks, they're orchestrated, systematic. Are you having thoughts of self-harm? Number, Sarah paused. But I understand why someone would. Come to my office, now. They fired you as my therapist, remember? I don't care. This has gone too far. Sarah looked out her window at the gray January sky. Everything's gone too far. At 4:30 p.m., Barbara Winters called again. Last chance for comment, Miss Chen. Our sources have provided quite the interesting history. Sarah's voice was dead. What sources? Multiple former colleagues describe a pattern of erratic behavior, political outbursts. That's a lie. We have documentation of your removal from the premises. Sources suggest it followed an inappropriate relationship with a senior executive. Also a lie. Your medical records indicate. Sarah sat up straight. What medical records? Barbara's voice dripped with false concern. Oh, your teenage psychiatric history? The hospitalization? I was never hospitalized, Sarah was shouting now. Those records don't exist because none of that happened. So you're calling our sources liars? Yes, I am. This is all lies, and you know it. She could hear Barbara's smile. Thank you, Miss Chen. That was very helpful. The line went dead. Sarah's phone immediately buzzed. Nice outburst. Very credible. Then, you played right into that one. And, wonder how that angry denial will look in print? At exactly 5 p.m., the article dropped. Trump Tower troublemaker. Inside one employee's history of disruption. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat as she read. The article was a masterpiece of character assassination. Every denial she'd made was twisted to sound unstable. Every gap in her employment history was filled with sinister implications. Anonymous sources painted a picture of a troubled woman with a history of inappropriate behavior. Her phone exploded. Mom. Oh, baby. I'm so sorry. Jenny. This is insane. None of this is true. Unknown. Like our creative writing? Unknown. Your poor parents. Finding out like this? Unknown. Trending on Twitter yet? Sarah opened Twitter with shaking hands. Her name was already trending. Can't believe they let someone this unstable work there. Number Trump Tower. Another liberal plant exposed. Number Sarah Chen. No smoke without fire. Number Trump Tower, number leaker. The story was spreading. Other news sites were picking it up. Conservative blogs were adding their own spin. Her entire life was being rewritten in real time. Her building's doorman called up. Miss Chen, there are reporters in the lobby asking for you. Sarah looked out her window. News vans were parked outside. Unknown number. Wave to the cameras. She drew her blinds. By evening, the story had evolved. New sources had emerged with more allegations. Each hour brought fresh revelations, each more twisted than the last. Her phone rang. Dr. Patterson again. Sarah, please tell me you're not reading the articles. Did you know? Sarah's voice was eerily calm. That apparently I had a complete breakdown in college. That I stalked a professor. That I was institutionalized. News to me. Sarah. Oh, and the Trump Tower stuff. The affairs, the leaked documents, the political rants. I must have been really busy because I don't remember any of it. You're having a panic attack. Listen to my voice. Sarah laughed, high and hysterical. A panic attack? They're destroying my entire life. They're rewriting my history. They're turning me into some crazy unstable. She couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. Sarah. The phone fell from her hand. Sarah slid down the wall, gasping for air, the room blurring around her. Unknown number. Breathing problems? Need medical attention? Another. Careful with those panic attacks. They'll add it to your history. Sarah somehow made it to her bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. Her reflection looked like a stranger, pale, haunted, broken. Her phone kept buzzing with reactions. Sarah? My God, I had no idea about your history. Don't worry, we're all here for you. Get the help you need. I always knew something was off about you. Jenny tried calling. Then Thomas. Then her parents. Sarah couldn't answer, couldn't explain, couldn't defend herself against lies that grew more elaborate by the hour. Around midnight, Barbara Winters called again. Miss Chen? Care to comment on the new allegations? Sarah stared at her phone. Why are you doing this? Just reporting the facts. None of these are facts. You're destroying my life with lies. Barbara's voice was smooth. Our sources. Your sources don't exist. Sarah was crying now. None of this happened. I was never hospitalized, never had affairs, never leaked anything. I just laughed. That's all I did. Interesting. Barbara's tone was predatory. So you admit to showing disrespect to Miss Guilfoyle? Sarah ended the call. Unknown number. Great interview. Very emotional. Another. Wonder what tomorrow's headlines will be. Another. Sleep tight, if you can. Sarah sat in her dark apartment, surrounded by the ruins of her life. Her phone kept lighting up with messages. Sympathy from people who believed the lies, criticism from those who judged her, threats from unknown numbers who watched her every move. The night stretched endless before her, and tomorrow would only bring more destruction. Her phone buzzed one final time. Unknown. Breaking yet? Dawn crept over Brooklyn, finding Sarah still awake, still sitting in the dark. Her phone had finally gone quiet around 3 a.m., its battery dead. She couldn't bring herself to charge it. The morning light revealed new reporters camped outside her building. Sarah watched them through a crack in her blinds, cameras ready, waiting like vultures. Her laptop pinged with a new email. She shouldn't look. She knew she shouldn't look. She looked. From alumni.relations@columbia.edu. Subject: Immediate action required. Alumni status review. Dear Miss Chen, in light of recent revelations about your professional conduct and personal history, the Columbia University Alumni Association is conducting an immediate review of your membership status. Additionally, we are examining the circumstances surrounding your graduation in light of new information about your academic conduct. Best regards, Alumni Relations Office. Sarah stared at the screen. They were going after her degree now. Her landline rang. She'd forgotten she even had one. It was Jenny. They're outside your parents' house in San Francisco. Jenny's voice shook. News vans. Reporters. Your mom called me crying. Sarah felt the room tilt. What? They're interviewing the neighbors. About your troubled childhood. Sarah, this is insane. We have to do something. Like what? Sarah's laugh was hollow. Fight the media? Sue them? With what money? What lawyer would even touch this? Maybe if we all spoke up. Told the truth. Me, Thomas, everyone who knows you. Sarah's voice was firm. They'd destroy you too. Just like Thomas. But, promise me, Jenny. Promise you won't try to help. After hanging up, Sarah forced herself to plug in her phone. It immediately exploded with notifications. Twitter mentions, 1,247. Text messages, 89. Missed calls, 156. Emails, 892. The top Twitter trends made her sick. Number, Sarah Chen scandal. Number, Trump Tower leaker. Number, Chengate. Conservative news sites were running follow-up stories. Revealed, Sarah Chen's history of instability. Sources, Trump Tower leaker had pattern of erratic behavior. Exclusive, Chen's college classmates speak out. Her phone buzzed with fresh unknown numbers. Enjoying the coverage? Your poor parents. Those reporters are relentless. Nice diploma. Shame if anything happened to it. Sarah's hands shook as she opened her laptop again. She had to know how bad it was getting. The Post had published a follow-up. Trump Tower Troubles. A Deeper Look. By Barbara Winters. New sources have come forward with disturbing details about Sarah Chen's history of unstable behavior and political activism. Former classmates describe a pattern of concerning incidents during her time at Columbia University. The article quoted anonymous students describing events that never happened, protests she'd never attended, confrontations she'd never had, a completely fictional history being created in real time. Her phone rang. Dr. Patterson again. "Sarah, where are you?" "Home. I'm coming over." "They'll see you." The reporters. "I don't care. You need." Sarah ended the call. Her phone immediately buzzed. Refusing mental health help? Very concerning. Then, should we add that to tomorrow's story? The landline rang again. This time it was Thomas, calling from a payphone. "Kid, it's getting worse." Sarah sank onto her couch. "I know. They're not just going after your past now. They're creating a whole narrative, making you into some kind of radical plant." "Why?" Sarah's voice broke. "Why all this? Over a laugh?" It was never about the laugh. Thomas sounded tired. "You saw things in those Saudi files, things they never wanted anyone to see. The laugh just gave them an excuse." After hanging up, Sarah got another email. This one from her old high school. "Dear Miss Chen, due to recent media coverage and multiple inquiries, we are conducting a review of your student records. They were going all the way back, erasing and rewriting everything." Her phone buzzed. "High school's a critical time. So many things could have happened." Then, "Wonder what your teachers really thought of you." Sarah finally screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore from her throat. She screamed until her voice gave out, until her neighbors banged on the walls, until she collapsed onto the floor sobbing. Her phone kept lighting up. "Having a breakdown? The walls are thin. Neighbors concerned? Should we call someone? For your own safety?" Hours passed in a blur. Sarah lay on her floor, watching shadows move across her ceiling as the day died. Her phone buzzed occasionally, but she'd stopped reading the messages. Around sunset, a new email arrived from Barbara Winters. "Miss Chen, more sources have come forward about your time at Trump Tower. Would you care to comment on allegations of unauthorized access to confidential files regarding Saudi investments? Additionally, several former colleagues have provided information about concerning behavior during late nights at the office. Deadline for comment is 8 p.m. Regards, Barbara." Sarah stared at the email. They were building to something. Each story laid groundwork for the next, creating a web of lies so dense she could never escape it. Her phone buzzed one last time that night. "Unknown. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Very, very interesting." Sarah finally understood. They weren't just trying to destroy her past. They were destroying her future too. Every job application would find these stories. Every background check would raise red flags. Every Google search of her name would bring up lies and allegations. She was being erased and rewritten, turned into a cautionary tale, a conspiracy theory, a broken woman who'd brought it all on herself. And for what? A laugh. Just one tired laugh. The email arrived at 3 a.m. when Sarah was doing what she always did now, sitting in the dark, watching her life unravel in real time. From michael.harrison@gs.com. Subject: Regarding your situation. Miss Chen, we haven't met, but I've been watching what's happening to you with growing concern. I'm a senior partner at Goldman Sachs, and I recognize a coordinated takedown when I see one. If you're interested in discussing your future, I'd like to meet. Not at my office, somewhere quiet. The Park Hyatt Breakfast Room, 7 a.m. today. Ask for table 42. Best, Michael Harrison, Senior Partner, APAC Division, Goldman Sachs. Sarah stared at the email for a long time. It had to be another trap. Like the fake interview at the Pierre. Like the dozen other opportunities that turned out to be setups for more humiliation. Her phone buzzed, still working despite a cracked screen from the last time she'd thrown it. Goldman Sachs? Ambitious. But do they know your history? Then, table 42. Should we meet you there? Sarah's hands shook as she deleted the email. But at 6:45 a.m., she found herself walking into the Park Hyatt anyway. What did she have left to lose? The breakfast room was nearly empty. At table 42, a man in his 60s sat reading the Financial Times. He looked up as she approached. "Miss Chen." He stood, offering his hand. I'm Michael Harrison. Thank you for coming. Sarah shook his hand warily. How do I know this isn't another setup? Straight to the point. Good. He gestured for her to sit. You don't. But consider this. If they wanted to set you up again, would they use someone as easily identifiable as a Goldman senior partner? Sarah sat, still tense. Why did you reach out? Harrison folded his newspaper carefully. Because 30 years ago, I was you. What? Different players, similar game. He signaled for coffee. I saw something I shouldn't have at a previous firm. Made the mistake of trying to do the right thing. Next thing I knew, I was unhireable in London. My reputation was destroyed. Sound familiar? Sarah's throat tightened. What did you do? I ran. Strategic retreat, I called it. Moved to Hong Kong. Built a new life. New network. He smiled slightly. Now I'm the one who makes or breaks reputations. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a position open in our Hong Kong office, executive level, and I need someone who understands how power really works. Sarah's heart pounded. They'll never let you hire me. Haven't you seen the stories? Harrison's smile turned cold. Oh, I've seen them. Amateur work, really. Effective, but crude. Do you know what the difference is between them and me, Miss Chen? What? I have actual power. Old money power. The kind that doesn't need to show off or destroy young assistants to feel important. Sarah's phone buzzed. Harrison glanced at it. They're watching now, aren't they? Sending their little threats? She nodded. Show me. Sarah handed him her phone. 3 new messages. Enjoying breakfast? Goldman won't save you. Hope he knows about your past. Harrison handed the phone back, looking disgusted. Like I said, amateur hour. But the media coverage will die the moment you leave the country. They don't have the reach they think they have, not in Hong Kong. Sarah felt tears threatening. Why would you help me? Because talent is rare. Because I hate waste. Because 30 years ago, someone did the same for me. He pulled out a business card. The job is yours if you want it. But you need to decide now. Sarah stared at the card. Can I think about it? Number. Harrison checked his watch. You have 30 seconds. Say yes, and you'll be on a plane tonight. Say no, and I'll walk away. And trust me, this offer won't come again. Sarah's phone buzzed again. Tick-tock. Big decision time. She looked at Harrison. They'll follow me. They'll contact every bank in Hong Kong, spread the same lies. Let them try. Harrison's voice was steel. I'd love to see Don Jr. or his plastic bride try to influence Asian banking. They're big fish in a very small pond, Miss Chen. The world is much larger than they know. 20 seconds left. Sarah thought about her apartment, filled with moving boxes she couldn't afford to ship. About her parents, still dealing with reporters camped outside their house. About Thomas, demoted and broken. About Jenny, afraid to even call anymore. 10 seconds. Her phone buzzed. Choose wisely. Yes, Sarah whispered. Sorry? Harrison leaned forward. Didn't catch that. Yes, stronger this way. I'll take the job. Harrison stood immediately. Good choice. A car will pick you up at 8 p.m. Pack light. Everything else can be replaced. That's it? Just leave? Sometimes, Miss Chen, leaving is the strongest move you can make. He dropped a thick envelope on the table. Plane ticket, temporary housing details, and enough cash to start over. Welcome to Goldman Sachs. As he walked away, Sarah's phone exploded. Big mistake. You really think you can run? Hong Kong isn't far enough. But for the first time in months, the threats felt hollow. The day passed in a blur. Sarah packed one suitcase with essentials. She wrote a letter to her parents, to be mailed after she landed. She deleted her social media accounts. She wrote another letter, this one to herself, documenting everything that had happened, not for publication, but for memory. At 7:55 p.m., her phone buzzed one last time. Final chance. Stay, and maybe we'll let up. Sarah looked around her empty apartment, at the walls that had witnessed her breakdown, at the windows she'd covered to hide from reporters, at the corner where she'd sat crying night after night. Goodbye, she whispered. The car was exactly on time. Black Mercedes, driver in a suit. Miss Chen? He took her suitcase. Mr. Harrison sends his regards. As they drove to JFK, Sarah watched New York scroll past her window. Trump Tower glowed in the distance, golden letters seeming to mock her one last time. Her phone buzzed. Running away? Weak. Then, this isn't over. At the airport, a Goldman representative met her at check-in. Mr. Harrison's compliments. She handed Sarah a new phone. Your secure line. The old one stays here. Sarah looked at her old phone, the device that had become an instrument of torture. With shaking hands, she dropped it in a trash can. The Goldman rep smiled. Your new life awaits, Miss Chen. Passing through security felt like shedding a skin. Each step took her further from the nightmare. By the time she reached her gate, Sarah felt lighter than she had in months. On the plane, as New York's lights fell away beneath her, Sarah thought about the laugh that had started it all. One tired laugh that had cost her everything. No, not everything. They'd taken her job, her reputation, her peace of mind. They tried to erase her past and poison her future, but they hadn't broken her, not completely. Somewhere over the Pacific, Sarah did something she hadn't done since that fateful day at Trump Tower. She laughed. Not a bitter laugh, not a broken one, a real laugh, full of relief and hope and the knowledge that sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back. Sometimes it's simply refusing to be destroyed. Her new phone lit up with a message from Harrison. Get some sleep. The real work starts tomorrow. Sarah closed her eyes, finally feeling safe enough to rest. In Hong Kong, she would rebuild. Stronger, wiser, understanding now that real power doesn't need to crush people to prove itself. And maybe someday, years from now, someone would come to her office at Goldman Sachs with a similar story. Someone else running from artificial power wielded by small people. And she would remember this moment, flying over the Pacific, escaping a golden tower that had turned out to be a prison. And she would help them, just as Harrison had helped her. Because that's what real power does. It builds people up. It doesn't tear them down. 14 hours later, Sarah stepped into the humid Hong Kong air. The city sprawled before her, a maze of skyscrapers and possibilities. Her new Goldman phone buzzed. Car waiting at exit B. Welcome to Hong Kong. MH. The driver held a simple sign. S. Chen. No fanfare, no drama. Just business. Miss Chen. He bowed slightly. Welcome to Hong Kong. Mr. Harrison has arranged your accommodation at the upper house. As they drove through the city, Sarah watched a different kind of power unfold. One built on commerce and tradition, not reality television and Twitter wars. Her old phone, abandoned in a JFK trash can, couldn't reach her here. The upper house was understated luxury. In her suite, Sarah found a note from Harrison. Rest today, meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Goldman Sachs, International Finance Center. Your new life begins. MH. Sarah stood at her window, watching boats cross Victoria Harbor. Her new phone had no threatening messages, no anonymous calls. Just silence. Beautiful silence. She finally called her parents from the secure line. Sarah? Her mother's voice broke. Where are you? The reporters are saying. I'm safe, Mom. I'm starting over. But where? Sarah watched the sunset paint Hong Kong's skyline gold. A different kind of gold than Trump Tower's gaudy glitter. Somewhere they can't reach me. That night, for the first time in months, Sarah slept without nightmares. The next morning, she put on her best suit, one of the few things she'd brought, and headed to Goldman's offices. The International Finance Center dwarfed Trump Tower, but without the need for giant golden letters to prove its importance. Harrison met her in the lobby. Sleep well? Sarah nodded. Good, because now the real work begins. He led her to an elevator. Your story reached some interesting ears here, people who've dealt with similar situations. The elevator opened directly into a conference room. 3 people waited inside, all senior partners, all survivors of their own power games. Welcome to the real world of power, Miss Chen. Harrison gestured for her to sit. Let's talk about your future. As Sarah took her seat, she felt something she hadn't felt since that fateful laugh. Hope. Real, solid hope. Her new phone buzzed with a message from Harrison. Ready to learn how real power works? Sarah smiled. she was ready for everything. Because sometimes winning isn't about fighting back. Sometimes it's about finding the right battlefield. And Sarah Chen had finally found hers.